Over the past few years, I've made several unsuccessful attempts at pursuing higher education, both at university and TAFE. I dropped out of university twice and obtained a TAFE qualification that I will likely never use. What I didn't realise is that each course I did all had something in common, which was sharing knowledge with or teaching others some sort of skill. As soon as I recognised this, I decided that I really wanted to be a secondary teacher, a decision that came as no surprise to those who know me. And so, I would like to share with you my current philosophy of education and explain how this will influence my future as a teacher. It is essential to understand why we seek to educate ourselves and others. Why is education valuable and what are its aims? These questions are especially important as teachers possess great power to transform and influence society, for better or worse. As such, I derive my philosophy from the works of John Dewey and Paulo Freire, and believe in a process of progressive, critical social reform, both broadly and in the specific context of Australia. The Australian curriculum is based on two main goals: excellence and equity. However, our education system is marred by the ongoing presence of inequality and alienation among diverse and minority populations, those from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, non-dominant cultures or religious groups, the disabled, or those who just don't fit the traditional norms of society. In fact, up to 40% of young people in Western countries don't finish their secondary education due to feelings of alienation and disengagement. This has major ramifications for society and democracy, which I hold to be a central value, as inequality and discrimination in the classroom leads to the reproduction of oppressive norms more broadly. One might argue that seeking to dismantle and eliminate the mythical norms and classes structures in traditional education is a bit too political, but as Freire observes, education is an inherently political act and cannot be neutral. Dewey says that, in directing the activities of the young, society determines its own future. Since the young at a given time will at some later date compose the society of that period, the latter's nature will largely turn upon the direction children's activities were given at an earlier period. If we are to progressively reform society and work towards a more tolerant and freer world, then we must begin in the classroom. Freire builds on this, arguing that in order for progressive change and liberation to occur, the aim of the teacher must be to create a critical consciousness among their learners, which is to achieve a deep understanding of the world, possess the necessary skills, and to engage with it, and ultimately realize and take action against its oppressive elements. My pedagogy reflects this desire for liberation and need for critical evaluation. It is based on Dewey's concept of free communication and experience-based learning, in addition to Freire's critical dialogue. In his groundbreaking book, Democracy in Education, Dewey stresses the need for freedom, which does not simply mean the ability to act as one desires, but instead the student's liberty to freely investigate, interpret, and share information as per their own intellectual interests in a controlled environment. This experiential learning process is to be done in a group setting, as he believes that certain skills can only be learned in a group, and that free social and intellectual communication will allay the arbitrary barriers between learners, such as race, class, and religion, by promoting shared interests. The teacher must then engage with the students in dialogue, wherein the educator and the educatees analyze information together and co-construct new meanings. This is in contrast to the banking concept of schooling, where education becomes, as Freire says, an act of depositing, in which the students are the depositories and the teacher is the depositor. Instead of communicating, the teacher issues communiques and makes deposits which the students patiently receive, memorize, and repeat. All of these approaches relate back to the importance of democracy as my core value, as the personal and social growth, experience, and awareness fostered by this pedagogy create the conditions for a flourishing democratic community. Regarding how this will be done, I share Freire's belief that teachers must respect and incorporate their students' own knowledge and experiences when planning curriculum. If I am to meet the aforementioned goals of excellence and equity, I must know how my students learn and support them in their development. My classroom will be filled with diverse learners from a variety of backgrounds, all with their own virtual school bag of unique experiences, interests, and skills that may influence outcomes and opportunities. I have a responsibility to understand how this may affect their learning and adapt the curriculum as needed in order to ensure every student's individual needs are met. By using critical dialogue, I can speak with my students and determine what each of them know or are struggling with, and then develop personalized instructions for each of them. This differentiation will allow all students, irrespective of differences in ability, to learn and achieve excellence at their own pace. Equity is ensured by removing all preferential treatment and not following the one-size-fits-all approach of traditional curriculums. I believe that the foundation I have built with these principles will allow me to meet the needs of my future diverse learners and contribute towards the breakdown of the mythical norms that are alienating so many young people today. The path ahead of me is long, but the desire for progressive, critical social reform is something I intend to uphold.